So like I think my language is a huge thing. And I think as I've gotten older I've realized like the yeses and the nos of lacrosse, and I used to have horrible body language. And then
Oh my god, listening to you talk about this is insane.
yeah, I used to have a horrible body language. But I think as I got older, like my 5th year, I don't even think I got one yellow card. Like I've like matured.
The Meg Show is on full display in the dome. Let's go!
The Megan to Megan Show continues. Carney to Tyrell.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Meg Show. We are back with week 9, episode 9, and wow, has the time flown. We are in April, which means we are in the last month of regular season play for all the conferences. And I know we've been saying this for the past 9 weeks now, but what a season this has been so far. Meg, what do you think?
Honestly, I never know what's going to be a big game of the week. Like, they're all big games at this point. I don't know who's going to win. And it's just anyone's game. Anyone can win.
It really hasn't, and we keep seeing this week by week. We've seen huge upsets amongst the rankings, and we're going to start off today talking about the games that we were watching last week, and this game was one that people were really looking forward to. We had the number 1 at the time, number 2 at the time matchup, Maryland versus Northwestern. This was a highly anticipated game. They're both in the Big Ten. People look forward to watching it if you have the subscription for it. They were playing at Maryland, which they're playing on their field there. They have that new complex that they've been talking about. Northwestern came out with a huge win, winning 17-9 on Maryland's home field, which if you've ever played at Maryland and you're not playing for Maryland, that is no easy task. Definitely not the easiest environment to play in. And Northwestern just kind of came out and made it look easy, which is what they've kind of been doing all season. They held Maryland to 1 goal in the second and third quarters. And when you're seeing that kind of matchup, you can't really let that happen. You got to be putting up points. You can't be in 2 quarters, especially. You can't just be held to 2 points total. It was the first time actually that Northwestern's won in College Park since 2006. So this has been a long time coming. And who else but Izzy Skane and Madison Taylor both putting up 6 goals, and they had assists, 11 out of 12 shots respectively. So that's a fantastic afternoon, fantastic morning for them. It was a sold-out crowd in College Park, which you love the environment of that, people coming out cheering for you and or against you, but still the noise is all good. Shea Ahern, she had 10 draw controls for Maryland. And other than that, the stats were pretty much even. But for Izzy and Madison, those are huge days for them to boost them over this Maryland team that continues to surprise us throughout this season.
Yeah, honestly, thought that game may have been a little bit closer, but nice to see Northwestern really handled Maryland. Next game we had was Oregon versus USC. Also thought this would have been a little bit closer, but USC proved us wrong and fully just sweeped Oregon 19-8. They won. USC's Ella Haney had 5 goals, 1 assist. Slow first quarter for both teams, ending tied at 3. So a little quiet, slow start for both of them. USC had a huge second quarter, which really pushed them ahead of Oregon. They scored 7, and then coming out of the half, putting up another 7 goals. So huge second quarter, third quarter team there for USC, basically securing the win for them. They had 5 hat tricks in that game as well. So huge day for USC and a lot of different goal scorers. Oregon was then held scoreless in the fourth quarter. They just could not keep up with USC's dominant offense, and USC came out with a win.
Yeah, definitely. I also thought it was going to be a little bit closer, but happy for USC. That's a big day for them, putting up almost 20 goals. So moving on, we have another in-conference matchup we were looking forward to, Penn State versus Michigan. I was very interested to watch this game just because for Penn State, they have been kind of sneaky in recent weeks, I kind of want to say. So, they've come out with, a win over Northwestern, and then they also just lost to, what was it, Rutgers they just lost to?
I don't know. I'd have to check.
Well, they just played somebody. They just had a loss there, and they've been in a bunch of one-goal games, so like they're kind of teetering here and there. And this was a close game, I would say, comparatively. Michigan did end up winning 15-10. Michigan's been on quite a run this season, so this definitely was in conference matchups, when you get kind of later into the season, they get tougher. They mean more, really, which, obviously they mean a lot throughout the season, but when it comes down to crunch time, this win meant a lot for Michigan. Oh my gosh. Michigan came out firing in the first quarter. They put up 5 goals. Penn State was only able to put up 1 there. And then Michigan followed it up with another, hey, see ya, 5-goal second quarter. So that's 10 goals for Michigan in the first half, where Penn State was only able to put up half of those. Penn State did try to catch up in the fourth with 4 goals, but they really just couldn't make that comeback after Michigan just kind of kept putting up points on them. But for Michigan, this was a great day on offense, obviously. So 15 goals, and they had 9 different goal scorers. They had Kaylee Dyer. She led the way with 4 goals. But then besides her, 8 other people were putting up points. So when you're playing defense, how are you going to guard all these people? It makes it very, very difficult for the defense. So that's well done on offense for Michigan. And then for Penn State, who else but Kristen O'Neill led the way with 4 goals. Not enough good things to say about her. Unfortunate come out for them, but happy for Michigan.
Yeah, so Penn State had beat Northwestern 14-13, which we all know is a huge game. Insane win for them. Then the following week, they lost to Ohio State 8-9. Then they beat Vanderbilt 12-11, which is a very close game. Should not be that close. And then lost to Michigan. So they've got Maryland coming up this weekend, I believe, the 13th. So
this weekend,
yeah, this weekend. So we'll see how they handle them. And then Hopkins right after. So they've got 2 pretty good games to end their regular season. After that game, we had Xavier versus UConn. UConn won 19-7. UConn had 16 caused turnovers, which is insane amount in one game. Susan LaFountain. I'm definitely not saying that right. She had 5 goals for UConn. Eliza Bowman had 5 points, 4 goals, 1 assist. Abby Sharon had 3 assists, 3 goals, 2 ground balls, 1 caused turnover. Insane day for her. Maddie George had 11 of the Huskies' draw controls, tying her season high. She's been crushing it on the draw control for UConn, which is huge for them. And then Megan Whitley had career high game, 5 caused turnovers and 5 ground balls. That, guys, is grit. 5 caused turnovers, 5 ground balls. I want you on my team. That's awesome defense. Then we had just not even gonna bother. Marina from Xavier, sophomore goalkeeper, broke her previous program record of 15 saves with 16 saves in goal against UConn and set a new career high in the game.
That's an awesome day for the sophomore goalkeeper. Very happy for her. Unfortunately, the game didn't turn out how she wanted to, but that's a good day individually. The next game that we were watching was Harvard-Cornell. Harvard won 13-5. I was expecting a little bit of a closer game for this one, but happy for Harvard to pull away like this. Harvard came out strong with 4 goals in the first, where they kind of held Cornell to 0. And Riley Campbell has had hat tricks in 9 out of 10 games this season. She's had 14 goals in 3 games. She is playing very, very well right now. Against Cornell, she had 5 goals and 1 assist, which, as we can tell, 14 goals in 3 games. Obviously, she's putting up big numbers like this, so good for her. Harvard marks the season high in ground balls in 1 game in the win. And not to say that ground balls win games, because obviously a lot of things go into it, but getting 35 ground balls, you are winning the 50-50s. That puts you in a much, much better place. So that's a huge...
That's insane.
That's a grit stat. Like, you're playing hard that game. You can tell just by that. Cornell won the draw control game and had 9 shots on goal, where Harvard had 24. So you put more shots on net, the more likely you are to score. So Harvard ended up winning 13-5. Big day for the Crimson.
Lastly, we had Georgetown versus Butler. Georgetown won 18-10. Georgetown had a big first quarter. They had 6 goals right out of the gate, following the second quarter with 5 goals. So that's 11 in the first half, while Butler stayed quiet at 2 goals each through the third quarter. So they had 6 goals through 3 quarters, while Georgetown had 11 in just the first half. Emma Gebhardt netted 4 goals, 1 assist, so she had 5 points on the day. Great day for her. Gracie Driggs had 5 draw controls. That's going to help you win the game right there. Lucy Selander for Butler had 5 points on the day to try and carry Butler, but fell short, and Georgetown won the draw control battle 20-12 and came out on top 18-10 with a win. So clearly, none of these games we picked were really that close. I don't know. I guess we got to do a better job picking the top picks because clearly we miss Hopkins Rutgers going to OT and Yale upsetting Penn.
I don't think we could have. I will
Yeah, that's
defend
true.
us. I don't think we could have predicted the Penn Yale situation.
True.
I don't know what. Like, I watched that game. I was like looking into the fourth quarter. I don't know what happened from start to then, but that was just not something I expected. You know, you got Penn, they're ranked in the top 10 now. They're losing to Yale, who at the time I think was like 16 or something, which we all know the rankings, who knows?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, honestly, Rutgers had the lead majority of the game, and Hopkins came out and just saved themselves and went to OT. But
yeah.
to be fair, well, first of all, when I was making these picks, I think I totally forgot to look at Sunday and didn't even see Yale versus Penn. And second, these games shouldn't be close, so I didn't pick them. And Rutgers is proving us wrong, and Yale said, screw you guys, and upset Penn. But with that being said, well, so if you guys don't know, Hopkins did beat Rutgers. They did go to overtime, but Hopkins did win 13-12, and Yale beat Penn with an upset and won.
Handily.
Like, very well. Not even close, 16-8. But with that being said, we have upcoming games. So Tuesday, well, you guys will be listening to this on Wednesday, but we'll have Stony Brook versus Rutgers to start the week off. Midweek games we have on Wednesday, Hopkins versus Maryland. Can't wait for that. And Princeton versus Loyola. Those are two awesome midweek games on Wednesday. Definitely need to be tuning into those. Friday, we have a little appetizer game. We've got Duke versus Louisville, good ACC matchup to get to us to our entree on Saturday. Saturday, we have a full slate of games.
Hold on, we can't move on until we talk about this. When you went with appetizer, I was like, oh, interesting way. And then you pull out the entree.
And then we have our entree, full course meal. We got Brown versus Princeton, Florida versus JMU, Maryland versus Penn State, Yale versus Harvard, UVA versus Boston College, Stanford versus USC, Navy versus Army, UConn versus Albany. Guys, those are great games. That's
Saturday. If you're listening, you're busy. You're tuning in to all of these games.
That is 8 great games. I'm sure they're all on at the same time. So we'll have 8 different TVs. And then our dessert on Sunday is Hopkins versus Michigan. That is awesome matchup. Can't wait for that dessert. It's gonna be so good.
Megan, how long did you think about it?
Honestly, it just came out. I'm hungry, so I need to go eat dinner.
Oh God,
All right, Meg, let's hear it. What are your thoughts on the rankings? We've got US lacrosse rankings and we got inside lacrosse rankings.
I think, and I said this to Meg even prior to recording, I think that this week, Inside Lacrosse, this is the most accurate ranking that I've seen all season. I think that they got it right here. And there's no bias here. I just think overall, the way that things are shaking out right now, I think this looks right. People are where I'm expecting them to be. I think US Lax Mag, I'm a Notre Dame girly. I don't think they're number one right now. I don't. I still would put Northwestern at number one if I'm being completely honest with you. But I think that Inside Lacrosse, I think this week, I'm a fan of the rankings this week with them. I really am.
Yeah, I agree. Inside Lacrosse, I think this is the most accurate ranking we've seen all season. Not just from them, just like in general. I think this makes the most sense. I think there's still a little bit of a gray area between 6 and 8 with Michigan, Loyola, Hopkins. Those 3 just could go either way. So now that they're starting to play each other a little bit more, I'm curious to see which way those fall.
I think my only thing is Virginia. I think they could be in that mix. Yeah, I think Virginia could hit that mix with the 6, 7, 8s.
Yeah, they're not getting that much respect.
Yeah, so I think that's the only one that I kind of be like about, but nope, the rest look good. Good things this week. Well, hopefully it stays that way, but I doubt it.
All right, let's get into some questions. You guys did a great job sending us some new ones, some fun ones. So we'll get we'll get to those through the next few episodes. But today's questions: what was fitness testing like at the D1 level? Well, fitness testing reminds me of the pacer. Remember when we were kids and you would sit down, put your one leg out straight, and you would reach and see how far you could touch on the box? Why did we do that?
I think so. This is gonna sound like, wasn't it like called president's testing? Like when I was a kid, I used to think that like the results of that test went to the president of the United States.
No.
No, I'm not kidding.
Text Biden. Hey, do you know what I reached at?
Hey, did you get my sit and reach scores? Yeah, no, but I remember that. So that testing, you don't do that at D1. Well,
you don't.
not in that way.
It
Like
goes
you don't
from a fitness
stretch.
test to a run test.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
Oh, that's what I assumed. That's a good point, because I guess you could do like
weightlifting. So let's just cover it all.
Yeah.
So
for it.
yeah, so I think the fitness testing in college, so I'm not a fan of it, but you have to do
Why
it.
is
I
that?
think it just wasn't really my cup of tea, but I think it's more so obviously they want to make sure like you're not totally out of shape when you're coming back to school. So we'll start over. You come to school and you kind of have a run test in that like first month or so, kind of before your practices start, just like get it like a baseline, see if you worked out over the summer. And then for us, at least at Syracuse, but I think every school also does it differently. So at Syracuse, you tested in the beginning and then you tested when you came back for spring. Where I know other schools, they have you test in the beginning and then you rerun it at the end. So like the beginning of the fall, you rerun it at the end and see if you improved. And then when you come back in the spring, you're expected to kind of be on that line where you were for that second test that you did. So everyone does it kind of differently with the run test rise. And everyone does different variations of it. Like some schools do the yo-yo or 300. Manchester. So like there's a bunch of different runs. And definitely reach out to people before you get to school and see if like there's like a pattern with the run test, just so like you know what to expect before you get there and you're kind of thrown into it and you're like, whoa.
And you can practice and like train
and you can
for
practice it exactly. So every school does it differently. And I think it's like I get why it's there. It's more of a mental test or kind of than anything, I think.
Yeah. For Syracuse, it didn't decide if you were starting or playing or not.
It was just like you get through it.
Yeah.
And so that would be that for that kind of portion of it. For our run test, we used to do 300s and then you had to run a mile.
Mile's brutal.
Brutal. It's mental. Mentally, it's very brutal.
What do we have to run it in?
6:30?
6:30, 6:45?
6:30 something. And then we switched over to something else. But so that was the running portion.
What was that thing called that we just started doing our last when Kayla came? What was that called?
Match ready.
Oh, match ready. I could not think of that word to save my life.
And then as far as like lifting wise, we would kind of have like it would be like testing, but it'd be more like baseline, and you want to come back and be at your baseline. So you would do like squats, pull-ups,
bench,
benching,
Nordic hamstrings,
and like deadlifts. I don't know if I said that right.
Yeah.
But you'd do like a version of that kind of stuff. So at the end of the fall, you'd test, you'd have a weight. And then when you came back to school, you had to kind of have that same baseline in order to make sure that you were actually working out, make sure your body stays healthy. And then we also had like little agility tests, so like the 5-10-5, a 10-yard run, a 20-yard sprint, and then your vertical and what's the horizontal? What is that called?
Broad jump.
Broad jump, yes. And your broad jump. And that would kind of encompass it, I want to say. Just to make sure you're not like behind the ball. You want to make sure you're in shape. You want to be able to play without having the fear of like being injured, where if you come back and you sat down for 4 weeks over Christmas break and you come back and your numbers are very different, it's not safe for you to play realistically. So it's very important that you do work out, but Yeah, no, the fitness testing, it's very different at every school.
Yeah.
And everyone has a different, I think, methodology with it.
And consequence. Like Syracuse, it didn't determine play, start, bench, anything. I know some schools though it might determine that if you're playing or not. And it also, I think some schools determines if you get your gear or not, like your team issued gear. Like some schools don't give you it until you pass the run test.
Yeah, so it's very different everywhere, but I think every school does have some form of fitness testing.
Yeah. Meg would have never got her gear. Just kidding.
No, I would be gearless.
Could you imagine?
I don't even know what I would have done at that point, but blessed. I'm blessed.
Last question. We had a handful of questions from you guys, but we're kind of running out of time right now because we have a special guest next. But don't worry, we will get to your questions. Thank you guys for setting those in. The last one, and a lot of people might be wondering this, is what does the drip chain signify at Syracuse? Do you have to record certain stats from the game, or is it just based on hustle plays, etc.? Great question.
Well, it's definitely about hustle.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
Meg, do you
certain
want to explain
stats.
this one?
So the drip chain, let me refresh my memory. Okay, so the drip chain is when someone on your team on defense gets a caused turnover. And
It could be on
leads-
attack too. It could be anywhere
Yeah,
on the field.
It could be a ride, it could be back check, it could be literally a caused turnover wherever. The other team has the ball and your team gets it back. Then it goes and leads to a goal off transition, right? It can't be like settled offense.
Yeah, transition.
It leads to a transition goal. So the person that gets the caused turnover gets the drip chain.
Gets the drip chain. So that was like my most sought after possession last year.
I broke it.
I did not break it. I did not break it. I covered for someone who broke it.
Oh, right. It was in our possession when it was
And I'll
broken.
stick to that. 'Cause that's what
Covered.
happened. I covered for someone who broke it. But yeah, that thing, it's just,
It's fun.
it's
Something
fun.
like
You want to get
get
it. So like when
excited.
I was on the ride, I'm like, oh, I hope I get this cost turnover.
And then you get the caused turnover and then your teammates don't score. It's like,
And it's like,
literally.
wow, all that
Um,
for what?
But yeah, that's basically what the drip chain is. You are trying to get a caused turnover that leads to a transition goal. And whoever gets a caused turnover. So we love to see when there's more than one a game.
That's a good day. And then you also get to keep the drip chain until
Next game.
it gets
Yeah.
passed on to the next
So
drip
someone-
chain winner.
Yeah.
But it's a
just
cool thing.
something
Love it.
fun to buy into and get excited about and work for. So those are all of our questions. That's a wrap for today's episode. And now we have a special guest that we'll bring in.
Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Please welcome to the podcast our guest this week for week 9, 5-year player with me and Meg at Syracuse University, and was arguably one of the best two-way middies in the game. She was an All-ACC player, All-Northeast Region player, amongst other accolades, and in our opinion, has one of the best comeback stories as an athlete that we have ever seen. She is currently an assistant coach at UMBC. Please welcome our friend Sierra Cockerill to the Meg Show. Sierra, welcome.
Hello.
We are so glad to have you on with us today. And we'll just kind of dive right into it. We'll talk about our time together at Syracuse. So let's just kind of go back to, let's actually start off with freshman year when we first arrived on campus, going through that fall. I know we each had a very individual experience with that freshman year fall, but I think me and Sierra had a little bit more of a relatable one. So Sierra, when you arrived on campus at Syracuse, what was your kind of flow getting into things with classes and starting off with like practices and lifts and stuff like that?
Honestly, it wasn't that big of a change from high school since I like played 3 sports like all throughout high school, but like having to do a run test was something that was new to me because in high school we didn't really have to do that. And then me and Meg found ourselves in a really sticky situation by not passing the run test.
How many times did you guys have to redo it?
4.
4.
But I think it
4
made me,
times.
it made me and Meg stronger. I think also going from high school to college, you have to like be so independent, and that was like something that like I just like fully just ran out the gates with. I was not ready for it, I don't think, and I did not perform my best my freshman fall in the classroom and on the field since I didn't. Um, but no, I think freshman. I would go back to freshman fall in a heartbeat, like any second.
Yeah. And I think that's important to talk about too, because a lot of times, I mean, for us at least, we're like, oh, you come in freshman year and it's a transition, obviously, but like you'll be fine. But hearing like the reality of it, that sometimes it's not as easy as that when you come in, and especially with taking different courses where in high school maybe you coasted a little bit, then having to take college classes where, you know, maybe professors also aren't as fantastic as they were when you were in high school, and then switching it up from having those intense practices and then adding that with those lifts early morning or later in the day. What was our fall freshman year? What was that one year that the practice slot was like 6 to 8 p.m.?
Our-
That sophomore year?
No,
it
remember
was our
Senior year.
junior, senior, I think.
senior season. I
Senior
thought
year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, senior season.
it was like
So
6.
I'm way off with that.
Yeah,
Because that's when
But
that was senior season.
2 to 5. I feel
It was something different literally every fall and every spring.
yeah.
Yeah. So having to adjust to that is a challenge in itself. But no, yeah, definitely the freshman year fall coming in, especially if you, you know, you're playing travel, you're playing competitively in high school, you have that experience a little bit of knowing that you have to be doing things like back to back to back to back. But I think it's always different though for each person, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like also like adjusting, like you're now on your own. Like if you're late to lift, like it's because of you. If you're late to practice, it's because of you. Like I just feel like that's like you always had like your parents being like, you got to be somewhere, or you have your friend Meg Carney be like your agenda book. It was just like a free flowing, like where I had to be. Okay, sure, I'll just show up.
That is very true.
Yeah, that's very, very true. There's actually nothing scarier than the alarm of being almost late for a lift or almost late to practice and not having a valid excuse for it besides the fact that you were just late.
Yeah.
There's nothing scarier than that feeling of knowing what you're going to walk into.
The rush of panic that goes through your body when you've either slept through an alarm or woke up and fell back asleep and you're like, oh shit. Oh my god, it's terrifying. You try and get to Manly as literally as fast as possible. You're blowing like every stop sign going through Syracuse.
Legally, Megan would never blow a stop sign.
There's no rules in Syracuse. Stop signs are fake. Wow. Cece, what was your favorite part about Syracuse if you had to pick one thing?
Like in what way? Like lacrosse wise, or like just in general?
We can do one on the field favorite part, one off the field favorite part.
Okay. I would say off the field, I would have to go back, way back to freshman year, fall, and even spring of like just the field days. Like I think
Yeah.
people didn't use
those are
my
so
South
fun.
Campus like after we were freshmen or sophomores. Like
I
I
agree.
South Campus like went downhill, but that was like the best place to be. And especially like summer in Cuse and like summer in upstate is like the best, I feel like. So that was definitely like my off the field fun. And then on the field, I think my most memorable game is when we beat UNC. Like I've like never cried
Oh yeah.
like
Sick
at the
one.
field. I've never like cried of tears of joy after winning a lacrosse game. After when we won that, I was like I didn't know what to do. I was like,
Yeah, that was such a
like
good
monumental
feeling.
for us because we never have beaten them. So
Yeah, that one felt like a weight off the shoulders
Yeah.
of years.
Literally. For those of you that don't know, a field day at Syracuse is not lacrosse related. It is what is this beautiful green luscious grass field that is in the center of where the freshman and sophomore athletes live in these little like bunker looking
Like storage
things. They look
containers.
like they literally look like storage containers. They're the best place ever. It is you live there with someone in your class, like you're graduating your incoming class, so one of your teammates, and you split up in groups of 2 or 3, and you all live right next to each other, and you surround this luscious grass field. And when it is sunny and 70 degrees outside, that's the place to be. When we don't have lacrosse and we all hang out there and do fun activities.
And it's not just like every single athlete goes out and hangs out there. So it's
Yeah.
like, I feel like it's like a fun way to also like meet different athletes since you're always with your teammates all the time.
And they added a fire pit,
Yes.
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I would have used that all the time if
That's what I'm
they
saying.
had that when we were there.
We had it. They don't like utilize the field enough. So if
Yeah.
you guys are listening to this, utilize the field. You're coming up on your short.
It's
few
the
months.
best.
Dude,
I know, literally. You guys are
it
getting the
has
end of
flown
season.
by.
It's already April.
Like, it's so weird to think that those like 5th year and seniors, they have 1 month left.
I know.
Like, I feel like we just ended.
For real.
It's so weird.
And now we're almost a year out. So
Yeah. Now I'm not
That's
a
sickening.
post-grad kid anymore. I'm just a normal, real world
literally.
kid.
Oh goodness.
Cece, what do you miss the most about Syracuse?
I miss the people. Like, I think me and my coaches also always talk about this. Like, no matter what school you go to, like, the people are what makes it the best. Like, you can go to like the
Mhm.
school that's in the worst location, but if it has the best people, like, it'll be the best school you've ever been to. And like, I think like nothing ever compares to the team or like the teams that we've had in the past. Like, I don't know, just like you meet so many cool people, and then our grade actually is just like so close, even like outside of lacrosse, and like now that I'm like I think in other places you would never see this type of like friendships that you gain. So I think that's like the most thing, like the biggest thing I miss about Q's. It's just the people.
For sure. That bond is like no other.
For real.
No, really, you don't get it unless you go through it. It's but in a good way, though. It's all good things. And it's very, very special. But the people really do make it. Like, if you're in a place where, you know, maybe the school is cool, but you don't, like, really love what you're doing every day, if you're not around people that you enjoy being around, it makes, you know, kind of being a student athlete, like, 10 times harder, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree. What's last sort of thing about Syracuse? What's one thing that you regret? If you had to pick one thing out of your 5 years there, what's one thing you regret? Or if you could go back and change, what would it be?
I think like as a sophomore / junior, like fully enjoying all the moments that I had there. 'Cause I feel like freshman year and like my senior year and 5th year, I fully like was realizing freshman year was like, oh, it's your first time. Like, obviously everything's going to be like super fun. And then senior year, you're like, some of my friends are leaving. I know I'm coming back, but like you enjoyed all those moments. Same thing. But like, I think sophomore and junior year, I didn't really like those times kind of just like flew by, and I don't really have anything that was like that stood out really in my head about those 2 years, because I feel like I just kind of like lived and didn't really enjoy like those actual moments that I had. So I feel like I would, if you are young, enjoy every single moment in college because it goes by fast.
So true.
Yeah, I was just talking about that. I was talking about that with my sister, actually. I was like, isn't it nuts? Like, in a month or so, like you'll be graduated and you'll be an alumni and that'll be it. And she was like, why would you ever say that to me? But it really does go by so fast. Like the freshmen that were our freshmen when we were seniors are now juniors.
Mm-hmm.
Who was
Yeah.
that?
It's like live in them.
Yeah.
Liv's class? They're
Yeah.
our freshmen.
Mhm.
And it's crazy because they're like, next year they're going to be seniors leading the team. And it's just so weird to like really look back and see how fast it goes. Because I think for like us, it felt fast. And then I look to those who I were like, oh my God, you're a freshman. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to be a senior. That's the craziest thing in the world to me.
Mhm.
But the time does fly. So living in the moment is so important. I miss it sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes?
Yeah,
Oh.
sometimes like when I'm sitting doing work, I'm like, wow.
Well, the flashbacks. The
Oh, on
memories.
Snapchat, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I packed, so lost those.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dang, you don't get any memories now.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Dang.
about that.
Here, don't.
I know. That's actually really sad.
You
Yeah,
know.
this does suck.
So to kind of change the pace a little bit, we'll talk about something that's a little bit more depressing, but a little more real. So Sierra had a very unfortunate injury in, I'd say like the beginning to middle of our season, if that's what you would call it, around that area. Middle-ish, right?
Mhm.
When we were playing against Northwestern, and she had up there. So I say this about like a lot of the Syracuse people, but when they like go through these injuries, Sarah hurt her knee. They, for some, I don't know how, are the most positive people. Like it sucks when it happens, and like you can see like they're upset, obviously, but like they turn around. Same with Meg, like, and they're just like looking for that next step to like, I just want to move forward from this and like get back to where I was. And I thought, Sierra, you handled that with a lot of grace. Like from the moment it happened, you kind of, I think you had an inkling of what it was. And then you flew back with us, and I was like, oh my God, like look at her go, which I don't know why, but I was like, just like, wow. And you were on the plane, like cracking jokes, and I was like, I would not be like that right now. So if you could kind of let's take us through, we get back to Syracuse. What's your mindset kind of, are you sitting with the injury? Or are you like kind of just looking forward to push through? Kind of take us through that journey a little bit.
Honestly, like as weird as it sounds, like right when it happened and I was laying on the turf with my legs like crisscrossed, I immediately knew what happened. Like I was like, oh, shit. And then, but I didn't get up because I thought that like I was gonna injure myself more. But like at that point, who really cares? And then from that point on, I was like, I guess like now it's your road to recovery. Like the last thing I wanted to do, like I apologized to Kayla and Defo for crying on the sidelines and like distracting. I was like, I'm distracting everyone. I'm sorry. They're like, why are you sorry? What the fuck? And then like I was just like, all I do is like here for the team. So like I was remember just jumping on the sidelines, just like being so amped, and then like telling my parents after the game. But like I don't know. I think like right away I was just like, there's really nothing you can do about it now. Like the more I know that like I feel like Meg, after you went through it, like majority of your battle is like mental, and like if you set yourself back mentally, like the physical part is just gonna be like so tough for you that like I don't ever get past that point. So I just knew that like if I could be mentally positive, the physical part will like it'll be hard, but it's not gonna be as hard if I'm positive about it. And I just think that I knew that I never was at my like full potential before that point, and that like I was like, oh, now it's my chance to like kind of like reset and like restart, and it's like just create like you have nothing to prove, like really you don't when you come back. So it's just like, do you if you get hurt again? Like I kind of just like go balls to the walls, and if you get hurt again, like then it's meant to be. Like who really cares? So I just like try to have that.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
The mental aspect of it is easily like the hardest part.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, the physical part is painful in the beginning stages and frustrating because it takes so long, but you know that like mentally, if you can just accept it and like start going, like move on from it and look up, then it'll make everything else easier. But the mental part is definitely the hardest. And
Mhm.
it's definitely easier said than done.
Yeah. And like I even like after the 9 months, I remember looking to my mom being like, that was the quickest 9 months of my life. She was
Mhm.
like, what are you talking about? I was like it kind of just flew by because like 1 minute your life's just like miserable because you have to relearn how to walk and relearn how to like do things that you never thought you would have to ever do to like fully being back out there and you're like, whoa. Like I think at the end stages are kind of hard because you feel like you can be out there but you're not just quite ready. But I don't know, I just think
Mhm.
mentally if you are positive about it, the recovery is like just 1,000 times easier.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think too, what I mentioned like earlier when I was introducing Sierra, when Sierra came back from this injury, she was like, you were great before, but you were 10 times better when you came back from your injury. Like it was almost like it was like I remember it like this is gonna sound so like silly, but I remember it like before you got hurt, you were like really complaining about this stick side high shot that you kept taking. And I was telling you to keep taking that shot because she's a very strong shot. So like if you just a little bit more, you're right there on getting it. And she was so frustrated with it. And this has nothing to do with like the physical part of her ACL, but when she came back and we were playing I want to say maybe like West Jenny or something one day, and you were just ripping these like stick side high shots and they were all falling. And I was like, this is so weird. Like last time I talked to her about this, she was driving herself up a wall about it. But that's just like one instance of it. But like you came back and you were moving and grooving up the field. I was like, oh my God. But to see what like you could do like with your like determination, and it was very inspiring as an outsider looking in.
Thanks, Peggy.
Of course.
Yeah, no, definitely came back and just literally crushed it. Just moving up and down the field. I remember when you were coming back, couldn't you only play like half the game or something or like a quarter?
Yeah, the first game I could only play like 5 minutes of
Yeah.
each.
Like you and Tessa. And
Mhm.
it drove you so crazy because you were just so ready to be back out there.
Yeah,
It's like a taste of it.
yeah. And
Yeah, it
same
was like a little
it was
tease.
just like so annoying for both of us. We were just sitting there and like we were looking at each other like almost in tears because we were like, we just want to be out there and we know we can do it. And then like the next like Kat finally gave us the okay to be like, sure.
Yeah.
I was like, Kat, if
And
I
then all felt whole again.
yeah.
Good times, good times. All right, let's move on to what you're doing now. So now you're a coach at UMBC. How did you decide you wanted to get into that? How'd you go about it? What was like the whole process? When did you make the decision that that's what you wanted to do?
Honestly, getting hurt was a big thing of knowing that I wanted to coach because since you have to just like be sidelined and help your teammates get through something, but like you can't actually help them on the field. So I think that actually opened my eyes up to a whole new, like, different perspective of lacrosse. And I like was like, oh, I could totally do this. I think this is like my passion. And then that winter, going into our 5th year season, my trainer Morgan, she was like, Sierra, do you know what I want to do? And I was like, I think I kind of want to get into coaching, but I don't really know. And she's like, do you want to like, where would you like to be? And I was like, I think I want to come home. She's like, all right, I'll let you know if there's any jobs open up. And then it happened to be at UMBC, and that's where she worked. And then it was kind of like a week after we lost in the Final Four. I like didn't really, it hadn't really clicked that I was done playing college lacrosse, but then like I had a call with the head coach Amy Slade, and I just like was just so excited for new opportunities, and I just knew it was my time to like just be done with college lacrosse because I did still have another eligibility, but and like at first it was actually really hard in the fall. I kind of really wish I went back, but then now I'm like I'm so happy I chose what I did because like I just think everything happens for a reason, and I love coaching, and I think it's my calling. It's where I belong.
Wow, love that. I totally forgot you had another year of eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
I remember now so vividly when we would like go play tennis or just like mess around outside and you'd be like, oh, I gotta like make a decision what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. It was a
Wow.
really
Now here
actually
you are.
really stressful time, especially after we
Yeah.
lost. It was like I was talking to Kayla, talking to my parents, and it was just like
Yeah.
it was really stressful. And I have felt like a child. Like I feel like growing up, like you have like your life, like kind of figured, like your parents kind of figure out your life for you type thing, and then like boom, college ends, and now you have to do it yourself. And I feel like by
Mhm.
me choosing to like just be done with college across, that was like one of the biggest big girl decisions I've had to make in a while. And that was like the scariest
Yeah.
moment. I was like, holy shit, like, did I really mean to do this? And then I'm really happy with what I chose. So,
That's good.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. For those who go into coaching, that is such a quick decision that has to be made. Like, well, I mean, it doesn't have to be made right away, but like for the most part, it's a very quick decision because, you know, school starts back up in August. So by like July, I guess you'd have to know if
mhm.
you were going to coach or not for the most
Mhm.
part. So that's a really quick, very big girl decision to make right away for like your first like job out of college.
Yeah.
That's really stressful.
Like, we finished the 31st, or, right? That 31st weekend, 30th.
Somewhere around then, yeah.
And my first, like, day was June 19th.
Dang.
That is so quick of a turnaround. Oh, because you have to do like recruiting and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that then, actually. So, going from, you know, you've been recruited before, you've been through the process. Obviously, it was different when we were getting recruited, but what does it look like for you now? What are, if you want to look into, or if we can talk about some key things that you kind of look for players, some things that you don't like to see on players, you know, kind of give me a little gist of that, if you don't mind.
Honestly, like, I think the biggest thing for coaches is like a kid's effort. Like, a kid's not going to play 100% every game. Like, you know, so you guys all know, like, summer tournaments, you play like 5 games in like the scorching hot heat. Like, you just know you're not going to play 100%. But like the kids that go with their teammates to an extra ground ball, like when they know their teammate's going to win, or like that dive on the out of bounds play, or just like hawking down someone on like when they get the ball turned over on themselves or whatever. I don't know. I just think the effort piece, like, not even about the skill, because you can always teach skill, but you can't teach effort. So, like, that's like one thing I always look for.
So true.
Yeah. And
So true.
what was the second question you asked me? I forget.
I was saying, so things you look for when you're recruiting, and maybe some things that if you see, you'd be a little bit antsy or not so for a player.
I would say something that like is a big turnoff is like body language after a mistake. Like a girl like getting cooked on defense and then like slamming her stick, or like you passing it to your teammate and your teammate misses the ball and it goes out of bounds and you just like go like, or like, I don't know, I think
Palms up.
Yeah. Arguing with the ref. Can't do it. So like I think body language is a huge thing. And I think as I've gotten older, I've realized like the yeses and the nos of lacrosse, and I used to have horrible body language. And then
Oh my god, listening to you talk about this is insane.
yeah, I used to have a horrible body language. But I think as I got older, like my 5th year, I don't even think I got 1 yellow card. Like I've like matured to not like fucking to not like,
No, I think definitely. I don't actually think you did get a yellow card at all. Or maybe like one out of like an off chance, but like
but I used
nothing that was like noticeably like wow.
Mm-hmm. But like, so like that's why I also have to give like younger kids grace while recruiting though. Like I understand that maturity comes along with like body language, but like there's some certain things like slamming your stick. No, can't do it.
Can't be doing that.
No. But one thing you can do is effort all the time.
Yeah, I think definitely a big thing, arguing with the refs. That's never a good look.
Mm-mm.
And it's seen across like every sport really, but You definitely don't want to be doing that, especially if you're trying to get recruited. You kind of just got to take the call on the chin and keep walking. But yeah, no, definitely. And body language is huge too. You don't want to be the palms up girl. You definitely don't want to be palms up girl.
I also think like
What advice, because we get this question a lot, what advice would you give? Oh,
no,
sorry,
no.
were you talking? I think we
I
have a
was just
lag.
like not being like selfish because everyone's trying to get recruited. You know.
Yeah.
But sorry.
Sure.
True.
What is one way that, like, because we get this question a lot for girls that are like in middle school or going into high school, what should they be doing to try and give them the best ability to be recruited? So like emailing coaches, film, is there like a platform or something that they use these days that is the best way to get your highlight reel out there, get in contact with coaches?
Yeah, so there's a website called IWLCA Recruits, and it literally like has this whole like profile on you. Like it tells you what hand someone is, how tall they are, like sometimes how much they weigh if they put that in there, what position they are, where they go to school, like literally all these things, and it has all their highlight reels. That is something that is like super important and like something that is so accessible to all college coaches. And I think emailing coaches is like important, but also knowing that like emailing in the spring is probably like a coach is probably not going to see your email just because that's also their season and they're overwhelmed with like their team. So I think the fall is like really important to email coaches and send them your highlight reel. Going to camps that you're actually interested in going to the school, and just like having your club coaches also reach out about certain things. And this is like super nitpicky, but like when you do email, proofreading your email and make sure you're emailing the right schools with the right coaches.
Yes.
Have you gotten any that are wrong?
People email us thinking that we're the University of Maryland, but we're the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. But like, so they'll say like, all, like Kathy Reese's name, but like whatever, but it'll get sent to us. And I'm just like, that's just like little things that you just should just like proofread. Have your parents proofread before you like send it out to coaches, because everyone sees it. People talk about it. So like you don't want to have your name scrolling on the coaches thing about. Yeah.
I'm kind of in shock
Talking the tea
over that. That's also, it goes back to that effort piece. If you actually care about something, you should be double, triple checking things before sending it, especially to a college that you want to go to. Wow, that's nuts. Oh my God.
And just like doing your research, like I think
so
like, spell my last name wrong. Wait, sorry. I can't.
Oh wow.
I've like lagged off. I don't know.
No, you're good. Yeah, definitely proofread everything. That's also just good advice for life in general, even when you move past, playing, or even like emailing like professors and stuff when you get to college. Like you want to proofread everything you do, because that's a reflection of like, which might sound like kind of what is she talking about, but like that's a reflection of you. If you're misspelling things or emailing things to the wrong place, it kind of just shows, maybe you're not that focused on it, or maybe you don't care enough about it. So always proofread. Always. And then staying on the pathway of coaching, you just got done playing less than a year ago. Now you're coaching during the season. What has been the hardest part about transitioning from playing to coaching?
I think it's just the whole aspect of like not being able to like think that you can like actually help. Like you're not on the field. Like at this point, like you just try to prepare your girls as much as you possibly can all week for the game and like hope that they can execute it. I also think like the hardest thing, and I didn't really realize this until obviously becoming a coach, but like putting the scout together, and then like since I'm with the offense, like making sure our scout team gives our defense the best look they possibly can. Because at
Oh,
the end,
God.
it makes me, if it's a reflection of like me, because I'm like, I want our defense to do the best they can, and then like vice versa, like our defense needs to give our offense the best look they can give us. So I think that's the hardest thing about coaching, because it's like I know what the girls should be doing on scout team, but I like, unless I go out there and play and be a specific person, like I can't really make sure they give us the best look, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you hop in a lot?
I hopped in the fall. I haven't hopped in the spring at all.
Okay, gotcha. Sierra back out there, laced up.
Just in the fall I did.
Thing, I feel like I would want to jump in like every drill because I would just want to run around.
But it's like so weird.
That's incredibly
because,
new.
like, you're trying to, so like when I put in the offense, I'm trying to like watch what our girls are doing to make sure
Yeah.
but then like some girls are also asking me like questions about the offense, and then like my brain's just like, whoa, I'm trying to describe it to you, but I'm also trying to make sure they're doing it right. Like I think that's like the toughest part, is like trying to make sure everyone's on the same. But obviously, like as you guys know, everybody learns just different.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's some offenses that I put in like from Cuse that like because they'll ask me questions of like, how do you know if this person, and I'm like, oh, like
I just know.
You just know. You just know.
like if I had the ball, Meg T's gonna cut, or like know that I'm looking for me to cut because I'm not a cutter, you know? Like I just think like just
Yeah.
the chemistry that we had, it's hard to like try to have them like make the chemistry. Like they just have to do it themselves, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Forming that chemistry is definitely for offense. I mean, on defense too, but like offensively, like having that chemistry of knowing what the people around you are going to do just puts you at so much more of an advantage.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can't teach chemistry. That just comes over time.
Yeah.
Do you ever do like one-on-ones with your players, like individuals, or like after practice, before practice, or whatever, like help them on stuff? Or
Yeah, so this one girl, Grace Bruce, attacker number 24, you guys should look into her. She's really good. She and I do shooting every Thursday before practice. And then I do, so Mondays and Fridays, all the shooters have the option to do extra shooting with me before practice. And then we do extra work after practice sometimes. And then at the beginning of the season, we've had a 1v1 or like a one-on-one, like in the coach's office with all the players. Like each person gets their own one-on-one. And then we did like a one in March, like a kind of like a mid-season one. And then we have one coming up kind of like the end of the season, just to like see kind of where they gauge where they are mentally, and like to make sure we're both on the same page. Because I think obviously like sometimes being a player and the coach's like expectations are sometimes completely different, and we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So yeah.
Wow, it's so weird hearing that from like the coaching side of it now.
Mhm.
You know?
That
It's
makes
like,
a lot of sense.
yeah.
Like, that makes a lot of sense to make sure we're checking in throughout the season for sure.
Mhm.
Who is your favorite team to play against so far as a coach?
Honestly, I would have to say Albany. Like this past weekend when we just played
Oh,
Albany.
yeah.
Yeah, that win was
That was a
huge.
big win.
Really, we haven't beaten them at least in like since Amy's been there, so it's like been like 15 years. So that was huge. And like it was weird because like since I've personally played them before, like I kind of already knew how to scout them, and it was just like since I know how to play against them, I just like really wanted to beat them. And I don't know, I think that was like the biggest like win so far this year.
Yeah, that was huge.
No, that was awesome. When you post that you guys won, I was like, oh my God. And now like you coach the offense, your offense worked. What you did worked. So that must be like, also that probably is a cool feeling. Like after like you win a game, you're like, wow, like my scout was good. I don't know. That would be like one of my first thoughts. The girls executed so well. Like
They won because of me.
No. Sometimes I do. I always ask, like, or at least our offensive people, I'm like, do you guys feel like after the game? So recently, since we used to, in the beginning of the season, we had like midweek games, but now it's just on weekends. So we have Sundays off, and then Monday would just be like rewatching the film of that Saturday game, and we won't have like practice or anything. And I usually ask the girls like, how well like prepared did you guys actually feel? Because then I can like change it for the next game if scout wasn't what they wanted or whatever. I think that's like,
What then you did,
super
yeah.
beneficial because like sometimes I feel like not like I ever felt like there was like games where we didn't feel prepared, but like like sometimes it's just like I don't know, maybe we just weren't like honed in that week of practice or those few days of practices that like and I think it's just really important now being a coach, just making sure that like our players and I are on the same page and that we're all locked in and we feel all prepared for the thing, not just me because I did the scout, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. The players have to be. Oh, it's good that like you care to ask that they feel prepared for it instead of just like kind of moving on to the next one and like they'd kind of still be in that same space, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then something else that we didn't mention before, but Sierra is a member of the Haudenosaunee national team. And that is so huge. Sierra, she plays so well there. Played against her. So much fun. Talk about what that kind of means to you to be able to represent the Haudenosaunee team.
Honestly is like one of the biggest honors. Like I think if people ask me what is like my greatest accomplishment in lacrosse, like I think playing for them is like so huge. Like obviously playing Division 1 lacrosse is amazing, but like one, like not like you two both know, like not everyone gets a chance to play on a national team. And just playing for the Haudenosaunee is just like so it's like such an honor and like playing against other people who like see us as like they see us and they're like, oh my god, you guys are so awesome. And like when we went and played in Jamaica, like the amount of girls that were just like, you guys play this game with like such grace, and like seeing the girls on my team and how passionate they are about it and how like what it means to them and just like spreading the game of lacrosse. I think it's just like such an honor to see the passion that my teammates have with it. I don't know, it's just like such an honor to honestly just play for them.
Yeah. No, it's so cool. And I love seeing like when you guys went to Jamaica, that looks so fun.
Oh my god, it was amazing. Like literally amazing. And honestly, it was like a blessing, like being roommates with Jimmer, freshman year. Because like obviously like no one really like none of us were like that close of friends going in besides like me, Coop, and Alex because we just knew each other in Baltimore. But like we just so happened to be roommates, and then she's like, oh, you're native too? And like kind of thought I was like fucking around with her when I was like, yeah, I am. And then she's like, you should try out. And I had no idea it was even like a thing. Like I didn't know that you could even like try out. Like I just knew that I was native, but I was just like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. But then like she just opened my eyes to like a whole different world, and hopefully I can still play in the Olympics in 2028. And that's like, if I can play in the Olympics, then that'll be, I can hang up my cleats.
That would be amazing.
That's insane.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So that's
That would
like,
be the end of, that'd be the retirement for me after that. That'd be good.
that is gonna
Then I'll hang up the cleats.
Oh, but no, it's so cool and definitely such an honor. Can understand that. What was your favorite event that you've done with the team?
I would say probably going to Jamaica this past fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Jamaica's beautiful.
Yeah, and just like, so when the first Sixes tournament happened, wait, Meg, you were there, Tara, right? And
yeah,
yeah. So like, I like that was really fun because it was like the first like Sixes ever. But then like being in Jamaica, since I feel like from that point, like the game of lacrosse just has grown so much that like when we were there, we got to teach like some of the locals how to play, and some of them were just like, oh my god, like they followed like me and Jimmer from like Cuse, Like
Oh
they
my
were just like,
God.
oh my God,
Yeah.
what, you guys played on Syracuse? Like that is like so amazing. And just like you would never know that there's like a local in Jamaica like keeps up with Division I lacrosse, you know? And like
Yeah.
like the coolest thing ever because I'm like I'm in a whole different country and someone is talking about women's lacrosse. Like what the heck, you know? And I just thought that was like such like a special
Yeah,
moment.
that's really cool.
People thought that like playing like Syracuse lacrosse and like me knowing other lacrosse legends was like the coolest thing. And I was like, wow, like the game of the women's lacrosse is like truly spreading, which is like awesome.
That's so cool. Lacrosse is so cool. It's such a community builder. Love it. Even though it's like niche, it's a niche community, but
It
it
is.
spreads wide.
It is.
Sure does. Well, Sierra, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Meg Show. We're so happy to have you on, one of our former teammates and one of the best two-way middies in the game. But thank you for joining us, and that's all for The Meg Show.
Bye guys. Thank you.